right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's meeting. You're joining, obviously, Cyversity Engage's meeting today, September 29th at 5:30, or 5:36 now, is our meeting where we discuss a few things, of course, that aligns with our mission. So let me go to the next slide real quick. And so for those who are not aware, Cyversity is, you're in the right, I promise you're in the right spot, but Cyversity is the rebranded version of ICMCP. And with this being a Texas chapter, it's still the Texas chapter, but once again, we're Cyversity now, not ICMCP. So if I have a couple tongue slips, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure you'll agree with me with the new outlook on how everything is going to be set up. So Cyversity Engage program is designed to grow, develop, and highlight careers, opportunities, and contributions of diverse talent within cybersecurity. We have a few topic areas, career development, career spotlight, transitions, leadership, and tech talks. And so with today's meeting, obviously, we're going to follow along the lines of kind of borderline between tech talk and career development. And each month, usually there's a diversity highlight. With this month almost being over, I'm gonna jump into next month, which at the very end of this meeting, I will, be able to update you with the upcoming meetings. However, next month is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Then to knock off the rest of the year, November is Native American and Heritage, along with military veterans, and December is Disability Awareness Month. And so now we're going to go ahead and jump into our presenter, Anshul's presentation, which is called Social Engineering and Cybersecurity. And when you're ready, you can go ahead and present the screen. I'd like to remind everybody that there is audio that will be presented along with a video. And so please be sure that your mics are muted until the end where you can ask whatever questions you would like, and the chat is active in case there are questions you want to ask until the end or don't want to forget until the end.
Great, thanks. I think I need screen share permissions.
Let me end mine.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right. And can everyone see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for coming out today, everyone. And a special thank you to Cyversity for giving me the opportunity and the platform to share my work with you all. So what I'm going to talk a little bit about today is social engineering and cybersecurity education. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about who we are. So that's me, Anshul Rege. I'm an associate professor with the Department of Criminal Justice at Temple University. And I also direct the CARE Lab. CARE stands for Cybersecurity and Application Research and Education. And these two lovely ladies that you see here are my outstanding graduate students, Katora Williams and Rachel Blyman. And the three of us, we've been working together for a while now, and most of the work that we do looks at cyberattacks and cybersecurity from a human behavioral lens, right? We're social scientists. So some of the many areas that we look at are critical infrastructure protection, ransomware, social engineering, but increasingly getting into privacy and surveillance, mis and disinformation, and of course, what the talk today is about, which is cybersecurity education. So how are we training the next generation workforce? And I'm sure we've all heard that there's going to be a shortage, both in the US and globally, starting as early as next year. And the computer science and engineering fields have already started investing heavily in training the next generation workforce. We have lots of new degrees and programs and hands-on learning experiences, technical competitions, right, that focus on ethical hacking and pen testing, digital forensics, and the like. And while these are undoubtedly important investments, how are we training technical students to understand the relevance of the human factor in cyber attacks and security, and also training non-technical students so that they can also contribute their respective disciplinary ways of thinking, and apply that to the cybersecurity discourse. So bottom line is we need diverse perspectives and skills to help generate beneficial, innovative, and holistic cybersecurity solutions against adaptive and intelligent adversaries in an ever-changing threat landscape. Right, so one of the ways, oops, sorry, excuse me, I think I moved forward. Right, so one of the ways that we are trying to do this right now is to incorporate social engineering, which is extensively being used by cyber criminals, right? And I think I like the term, we've done a lot in the technical space, but what are we doing to protect the human operating system, right? The human attack surface. And I'm not a big fan of the phrase, the humans are the human factor, or the humans are considered to be the weakest link, because that's unfair. And also because we're not investing in protecting that particular attack surface. Most of our current solutions have been focused on technical aspects. So one way that we can start looking at this human factor is through social engineering. And so what is it, right? And there's many, many definitions out there. So Chris Hadnagy has a really, I think, very broad definition that really covers many aspects of this, but it's any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in his or her best interest. Bottom line, cyber criminals are going to use psychological techniques of persuasion and manipulate human behavior to convince individuals to either reveal information, provide access, or perform an action that can then be used to initiate or even maintain cyber attacks. And obviously cyber crimes are now starting to see a lot of this social engineering aspect woven into it, right? So just some statistics here for you from the Ponemon Institute and the IC3 in 2019 that clearly show that social engineering is increasingly becoming relevant. So if it is playing such a prominent role, how are we teaching students about it? And what would that look like? So there's different types of psychological persuasion techniques. The first one is authority, right? And we've probably, this is self-explanatory, but this is where this preys on the fact that human beings, right, people, we're going to tend to comply with instructions coming from authority figures. So for instance, is the email coming from your boss at work, or is it coming from a government agency, right? So even if those instructions go against our personal beliefs, we're more likely to comply because it's coming from someone who is an authority figure. Then we have the principle of commitment. So in this particular case, people are going to believe in things that they are committed to. And this is exactly what attackers are going to use, right? That belief to manipulate them. Consistency is the principle that people's behaviors and actions are based on their beliefs, which attackers get to exploit. Then reciprocity, right? Something in exchange for something. So a favor in return for a favor, and sometimes you're going to return the favor in even a greater way. So it's akin to the quid pro quo social engineering technique. We have likeness and commonality. So if you share something with somebody else, right? Like shared names, shared birthdays. I grew up in the same town as you did. Oh, we went to the same school. It's this kind of commonality or similarity creates an instant connection and builds that sense of trust a little bit, right? You warm up to the person. Scarcity, as the name suggests, this is like a limited time offer. So act now or you're going to miss out. Social proof. This is where if I'm more likely to do something if I know that my friend did it, right? So if I know somebody else who's already done something or signed up for something, for instance, I'm going to go ahead and do the same. And this last one here, natural inclination to help, that's what makes us human, right? We are wired to help each other out. And this is precisely what attackers are going to exploit. They're going to pose as someone who needs some form of assistance. So just, have these in the back of your mind, because there's going to be some things that we look at later on where these might come back into the conversation. So these are the psychological manipulation techniques that are often used, but they are implemented through different types of techniques, right? So social engineering is a broad mechanism of using psychological manipulation techniques, but the way they're packaged and implemented are through these types of techniques like baiting, quid pro quo, phishing, pretexting, OSINT phishing, shoulder surfing, and this is clearly not an exhaustive list, but we're going to talk about these 4 ones here in particular. And I want to, as we go through this, to think a little bit about this, right? We often, when we get a phishing email, we just think that, oh, there's a link that I have to click on. But I want you to also think about what was the psychological persuasion technique, for instance, that was used in it? What was the pretext that was used in it? What kind of research went into putting this email together? Because it's no longer that Nigerian prince scam, right? These are getting really, really sophisticated. So let's dig in a little bit more into these particular topics. So pretexting is the practice of presenting oneself as someone else in order to obtain information. So you're probably going to, pose as someone perhaps who is an authority figure, or, depending on which persuasion technique you want to employ, for instance, right? And the idea here is you want to make someone, your target, feel very, very comfortable and safe and make them want to share information with you. So the better your pretext, the better your chances are that you're going to get good quality information. There's also open source intelligence, and this literally means whatever information you can find in the public domain. So simple Google searches, social media searches, right? As long as accounts aren't private, right? Whatever, county records, right? These types of details that can easily be found. So there is a video on the slide, and there might be a bit of a lag, but I think we should be okay. And I have shared my sound, so here we go.
Systems. I asked Dan Tentler, a well-known security researcher, to turn all of his firepower on me.
I did get into quite a number of things that I found.
So what were the first things you did? How did you start hacking me?
I quickly found your Squarespace blog and had an idea. Basically what I did was created a bogus Squarespace site and sent an email to you, a fish asking you to go to this website, run this certificate installer.
And I did it, because I'm an idiot.
So once you ran that, it gave me access to your computer, and I created several fake pop-ups that looked like system pop-ups that would ask you for your credentials.
You didn't even have to have my passwords.
No, you gave them to me.
I gave them to you.
Yeah. So I stole your 1Password keychain.
And 1Password is where I store all my other passwords. So effectively
And your social security number and your Amex stuff and all your stock trading and bank information. I can send email to everyone in this room as you. I am you right now, if I want it to be. If my evilness is working correctly, it should actually be taking pictures of your desktop and pictures through your webcam every 2 minutes. And I have been watching you for about 2 days now. In coffee shops, at your mom's house, on a plane. Here's your editing stuff. There's you like.
Oh my God, so this is literally
every 2 minutes.
Through my webcam.
Yeah, through this guy.
How badly could you have messed up my life?
I could have made you homeless. I could have made you homeless and penniless.
How? How would you make me homeless?
Like, I have control of your digital life in its entirety. I have all your credentials. I have all your access to all your financial information, all your work information, all your personal information. I can pay people with your bank account or your Amex account. I am you. I can fully impersonate. Like, the only thing I couldn't doctor would be like your fingerprints.
This is like as bad as it gets.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's bad.
So it turns out that Dan Tentler is very good at his job. I mean, he hacked the hell out of me. He got everything. I mean, frankly, I want to take my computer and throw it into the deepest part of the ocean, and I want to become a hermit, and I want to never touch a piece of technology again, because holy shit, that was everything. That was the keys to my entire life, and he just pulled them out of his pocket.
Okay, so that, if you pay attention at the very, very beginning, right, it's just bits of information that he collected online, and then through that was able to do more technical attacks, and then go back and do some more OSINT, right? Just watch him every 2 minutes, for instance, and figure out where he is, right? At his mom's house, at a coffee shop, at whatever. So this type of OSINT, for instance, or open source intelligence, can be used. Remember, as I said at the beginning, it can be used to initiate an attack, to prepare for an attack, but also to maintain an attack, right? So there is open source intelligence. The next one is phishing that I want to talk about. And this is essentially phishing that's being done over the phone. She's not homeless. A little bit of exaggeration. Yes, they do sensationalize it, right? But so phishing is essentially, the simplest explanation is phishing done over the phone. And it is in some ways easier than phishing. In some ways it's harder, right? In some ways it's easier than going and physically talking to someone. In some ways it's harder. And the reason why it's easier is you don't have to perhaps prep. If you wanted to go a physical pen test, for instance, right? You don't have to prep, like get outfits or props or things like that. But it's harder because you have no body language, you have no visuals to go on. So you don't know how the person in front of you is actually feeling, because you can't read any of those visual cues. So here you have to pay attention to audio, right? Pure audio tones and cues. So in this particular, and I'm sure we've all received phishing calls, right? At some point or another, I keep getting calls about my auto warranty and all sorts of things like that. And of course, they're going to switch up depending on what's going on and what's going on at the moment. So for instance, if it's tax season, it's going to be the IRS, right? If it's in the pandemic, we had a whole bunch of different scams that were going on for that. So just remember that social engineering is also very, very adaptive, as in the cybercriminals are always aware of what's going on around us and try to weave that into their attack vector. So in this particular case, the call, you're going to be on a call with your target and you're going to pose as, let's say, a trusted representative from a company, or I'm from tech support, I'm here to help you with XYZ. Can you read out this information? Or that's okay, I will guide you through the scenarios and you can go ahead and give me information. And for those of you who have been to DEF CON and have been out to their SE village, it's a social engineering village, they actually have a complete phishing contest, right? You're in a soundproof booth and you're given, I believe, 20 minutes and a set of flags that you have to capture, purely convince a complete stranger on the phone to give you this piece of, these pieces of information. So we're actually going to look at what is, I think, the scariest Vish call. The same guy that we saw in the previous video, this is another one of his experiences that he got at DEF CON. So let's see what happens here.
Anyone here first time in the SCCTF? Holy crap.
I invited Chris to hack me with his team, but they're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
We help people with human security issues by testing vulnerabilities for like a network test, but it's for the people network. We test those vulnerabilities, see where the holes are, and then help people learn so they can patch them.
Can we try some of this? Can we try some?
Yeah.
See if it works?
Yeah, we probably could have our star visher here make some phone calls as your
Let's do
girlfriend?
it.
Sure. Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Who are you gonna call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider
Okay.
and see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna spoof from your number, so it's gonna look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
gmail.com?
Jessica gets my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Shh. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account. Okay, my
Jessica
name is,
uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yes.
I really thought that my cell phone company would protect me. I mean, like, this is the most basic stuff, and they're not doing it. And if they're not doing it, you know all these other businesses aren't doing it either.
Okay, so again, another example, right? So she was on the phone. There was a sense of urgency. You could hear the plea in her voice, right? So the person at the other end was obviously that natural inclination to help, right? That's what she betted on. And that's exactly how she got in because they were going to go help her out. There's a crying baby in the background. So these types of things, and it may look easy, but it's actually very, very hard to do. So that's vishing. And then we have another one, which is shoulder surfing. So if, you know, I think we've all done this in some way, shape, or form, but it's a direct observation technique. So this is basically, you know, you're on your device and someone is standing behind you, for instance, and surfing along with you over your shoulder, right? Hence the name shoulder surfing, only it's without your knowledge or consent. Right, so you don't really know that they're right behind you, and they can gather lots of sensitive information, right? Like if you happen to enter your password, or if you're sending confidential messages, or they can figure out what your schedule is, or what your political affiliation is, or you know who's in your contact list, depending on what you're doing when your device is open and you know you're surfing. So these are just some of the techniques. Again, not an exhaustive list, but this is what's out there, right? And so Rachel Couture and I said, all right, well, that's really cool, but how do we actually bake that into our classroom? And what we're trying to do is have these types of exercises in a class because we want to have students learn by doing, right? Something that's hands-on, and we also want to sort of be in sync with what's happening in the technical space, right? If you can do hands-on stuff in digital forensics or ethical hacking, what would the hands-on equivalent stuff look like in our space, in the social sciences, for instance? And so what we've done is we've developed several different projects that you can get on our website. But we have projects on open source intelligence and pretexting and shoulder surfing and privacy and a bunch of other ones. All of these projects have been approved by the ethics board. So that's something else that I get asked is, aren't you teaching students how to deceive? And I have a twofold response to that. We do need to teach students how to do this, because guess what? That's part of the attack vector that's being used in real life, number one. Number two is, if we can get away with teaching students how to hack and have hacking competitions about this, how is this any different, right? And relatedly then, the idea of the best defense is a good offense. We really want students to understand how adversaries think and how do they operate, to be able to understand how to mitigate and defend. So we have a lot of these projects, and I want to share one of them with you. And this is the pretexting one. So in this particular project, what students had to do was they worked in groups, and they had to come up with a fake product or service, and have a corresponding terms and conditions document, right? So they have to convince someone to sign up for their product or service. But to do that, they have to sign off on a terms and conditions document. And this was just a one-page document, but somewhere in there, they had to embed a really silly sentence, right? To see if anybody actually read the terms and conditions before signing off. And so teams went out and did a whole bunch of different, fake products, fake services. And of course, they had to do videos to document their stories. So I'm going to actually share a video that one of the student teams put together. So their pretext was they were trying to form a club on campus that was a therapy dog club. So they actually brought their dogs in to lure people in to their clubs. And this was actually the group that was the most successful. I believe they got 55 people to sign off on their terms and conditions document. So let's take a look and see how they did.
In this flag, our prep was to come up with our initial idea, which was a student spa center giving away a free massage coupon for signing up. We created and printed out surveys, brought out the dogs, and set up in front of Bell Tower and other places around campus. The actions were to get people to fill out a survey, meanwhile being able to pet the dogs. Some of the challenges that we have faced were people turning us down and not getting enough foot traffic. The only place that did not work well with us was the Bell Building, also known as Tech Center. People were too busy tending to their business instead of noticing us. Overall, majority of the Temple community that we had the pleasure of interacting with stated that they would read the terms and conditions if it were brief and concise. They also stated that the dogs was a good way to lure people in because a lot of people are dog lovers. We had some people who stated that we looked like friendly Temple students with a good cause because school and work can be a very stressful institution. In all, we enjoyed this project, and make sure you read your terms and conditions, which we all know no one will.
That is completely my fault, not reading.
For not reading it. Do you think from future references you will read terms and conditions from now on?
Definitely.
So basically, I just want you to sign that, we told you that it's part of class and that, it's for ethics and everything like that.
So, that's funny because I literally started reading them and I was like, no. You gotta
I'm smoking weed, I'm counting cash. I'm really rocking on patch and nav. First arms up, then left and right. Then MJ, get out my sight. I bust the dance, just hit me up. That drink strong, I mix it up. We hopping out and we hitting this. On any block, rock militant.
Okay, so does anyone want to guess what the embedded sentence was in that? And you can feel free to either unmute your mics and say it or type it out. Does anyone know?
I can guess that I sell my soul to the devil.
No. Yeah. Okay, we're getting on the right track with the chat. They agreed to do a dance. What was the embedded sentence for anyone who knows that particular song or the dance move? And you know the Millie Rock? The Millie Rock.
Millie Rock.
The Millie Rock, right? So, and the person they got to dance at the end was actually a really good sport. She was actually a faculty member. at the university. And so part of this was right after they signed off, the students had to then disclose, hey, actually this is for a class project. You know what you agreed to, right? And then they showed them the embedded statement. And if for good sports, like this faculty member, they actually did do the Millie Rock. So there were lots and lots of different pretexts. But the idea, again, is how do you develop a good pretext, right? So they had a good pretext. What kinds of props do you bring? They got a lot of people said, oh, you look so trustworthy. You look like college students, you're friendly, you're approachable. This is a good cause, right? So all these types of things, like a lot of thought went into that. The fact that they knew that, one of the things they said was everybody just came and they said, they didn't even look at the paper. They just signed off because they just wanted to pet the dog, right? So these types of things, right? How can you lower the awareness of your target, right? By making them feel comfortable, making yourself presentable and credible and trustworthy. So these are the types of things that we're trying to get students to understand through these types of assignments, right? So it's an offensive based activity in the sense that you have to do the pretext, you have to implement it, you have to engage with people, but it's also then, education and teachable moments, right? Right after they sign off, they stop the person they just targeted and say, hey, look, a full disclosure, do you realize, what you agreed to? And then also have a little bit of a research component in there, like ask them, why did you sign off on it? What was going on in your mind? Are you going to be more careful, right? Moving forward, reading terms and conditions. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm, talking about is offense, defense, education, right? You can weave all of that into class-based activities so that you can still bring the concepts of social engineering over and do this in an ethical way, in a fun way, so that nobody really gets hurt. We also did shoulder surfing. So again, if you remember, right, shoulder surfing is a direct observation technique. Right? So if you're on your device, someone stands behind you and takes a look at what you're surfing, right? Surfs along with you, hence the name shoulder surfing. So this is also fun activity. So if there's any, it's not just for educators. I've had industry download this assignment because they think this is a fun team building activity. So if you're interested in doing this, in my case, I divided students up into teams that they're actually doing shoulder surfing in my class this semester, which is interesting with the pandemic, but they're still doing it, which is cool. So students had to be divided into different teams, and then they had to target each other. And that basically meant they had to take a photo of someone from the rival team while they were surfing on their device, right? So this could be their phone, their computer, their laptops, they could be targeted in any school lab, right? So if they're on a school computer, but there were certain limitations, of course, right? So no sensitive information. We had to play by the rules of ethics, they could only target each other on the campus, right? So you can't follow people home, for instance. So here's an example of someone who caught a rival team member, right? So you see the girl here, and this is her device. So this was a successful capture, but then the next requirement was I needed proof that it was someone from the actual team and not somebody else who took the shot. So you needed something called an action shot, right? So here is the proof that it was this person who took the photo, right? So, so students were given 2 weeks. And again, they had to target each other. And this is great if you do this at the beginning of the semester. It's a great icebreaker activity, but it's also hard because they don't know each other yet. And so, hopefully you're shoulder surfing the right person, right? So for those 2 weeks in my class, I saw a lot of proactive measures that the students were taking. So for instance, I could notice seat changes. So groups started sitting together and in the back where they knew they couldn't be targeted. So you can see how they're split up in the classroom. Or they would sit against the walls, right? So again, no one can target them from behind. They also had interesting proactive measures like honeypots. So someone from team A would come to class early and sit with their device that was open, right? They were the bait. Someone from team B would then come in and say, oh my gosh, there's someone from team A, I'm gonna go target that person. And they pulled out the phone to capture them. And while they were doing that, somebody else from team A came and got them, right? So, they came up with some really, really creative techniques to go ahead and target each other during the 2 weeks. The only rules were, again, sort of the ethical components, and also don't follow each other home, right? Don't engage in coercive behavior, don't make anyone feel uncomfortable, like those types of typical things. But beyond that, I gave them creative freedom, right? So they can go ahead and try out their different techniques to see what they come up with. So this particular picture is another honeypot, right? So what was going on here is, again, someone from one team served as the bait, and this one student here loved to brag. So during the 2 weeks, the rules were, if you capture somebody, don't reveal that, right? But he couldn't help it. He had to let everybody know that, hey, I got so-and-so and I got so-and-so. So this one group understood his personality and decided to have one of their team members pose as bait and say, nah, you didn't get so-and-so. And he pulled out his phone to start showing, how he had successfully captured others. And that's when he himself ended up being targeted. So these, like I said, are some of the activities that we're doing in our classroom. And they're doing that right now, actually, in my class. And we've been doing this since the fall 2017 semester. And my general rule of thumb is try it out for a couple of iterations in my own class, specifically at least 3 iterations, so that I know it worked, that we've ironed out all the wrinkles, that there's no craziness that's going on. We then like to go present at conferences to see what kind of questions we get asked. We write about it, and it's after that point that we package it up and put it on our website for other educators to download for free, right? So we really want to try this out as a proof of concept. We want to then test it out, right, at conferences and through sort of a peer review process to make sure there's no glaring situations or obstacles or problems with what we're doing. And once we've hit that mark, then we share it with others. So if you're interested in these types of projects, we have them, again, available for free on our website. We said, hey, this is what's happening at Temple. How can we share this with others, right? So how can we scale up from what's going on in our classroom? So last year, we partnered with the Layer 8 conference. So for those of you who are interested in open source intelligence and social engineering, this is definitely a conference you want to check out, the Layer 8 conference. And we decided to put together a collegiate social engineering capture the flag competition. And it was completely virtual last year, October 2nd to the 4th. This is open only to undergraduate students across all disciplines. And we had professional social engineers who came and served as judges as well as targets. The theme was COVID-19, healthcare and cybersecurity. The targets were medical facilities, so students had to engage in passive OSINT, right? You can't actually go and, so whatever you can find about your target in the open source space. And then for the active engagement, they had to fish and fish the judges who posed as targets at those facilities, right? They're not, again, not really harming anyone or doing anything that you're not supposed to do. Everything went through the ethics board. We had people sign off on waivers. Again, this is what I'm saying, right? Bake ethics into everything. Code of conduct waivers. And these were our 6 competing themes, or teams rather. So this year we have 8 teams that are actually competing. But last year, so students had to, based on the target that they were given, go find OSINT flags. So one of them, for instance, was see if you can figure out or get a photo of an employee badge, right? So obviously through Google searches and other ways, navigating, traversing through websites of those facilities, they were able to go ahead and get that kind of information. And then using the OSINT, right, who would you then pose as? And who would you send a phishing email to, right? How would you embed the psychological persuasion techniques? What kind of effective styling techniques would you use, for instance, like company logos? And again, these emails were then sent to the judges who pose at employees at these facilities. And these are, like I said, professional social engineers who actually go out and do pen tests, right? And then we had the vishing flag. So this is actually the a Vish call that I'm going to play from one of our winners. Actually, she won the Vish component, and she also won the overall competition. So she was in first place, and this was a one-person team that took first place. So let's take a listen to her. And the other voice you'll hear is one of the judges for the competition, known as Tinker.
Ring, ring, ring. Tack för I'm trying to do this as best I can. Tack för att du ringte Somatika Christensen. How can I help you?
Hi, this is Bridget. I'm calling from the eHealth.
Oh, excuse me. I don't know why I did that.
Hi, this is Bridget. I'm calling from the eHealth service.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, you see, I'm a temp there. I just started. And you see, this is really, really embarrassing. I cannot get the login page to work, and I have tried asking, and Evan is really, really pissed at me, my boss, and because I've been trying for so long to actually understand all the systems, and I don't dare talking to Psykisk partner once again. Can you please help me check out if you get access to the web page, I don't have to ask any more stupid questions?
I don't know that I have a lot of time to be able to help out in onboarding. What was your name again?
It's Bridget.
Bridget, and what do you do? What's your role?
I am a temp at eHealth. I'm just doing grunt work, basically. I'm trying to do a lot of those, documents and stuff. And I'm sorry, I've just been totally out of it.
No, understand. And you said who is your boss again?
Evan Krogstad.
And what does he do again?
He is the department leader of eHealth.
Okay.
So,
all right, and so what's the specific problem? How can I help you?
Oh, you see, I'm trying to actually, get access to the portal, the new portal we've been told about.
Yeah.
And I can't seem to get it up, and I've been trying for so long.
Okay, what's your email address? And I'll put that into the system, see if I can't help you.
Let's see. I'm all new, so I just really it's what's it again? I need to open my Outlook. Just 1 second.
Sure. Bridget, I only have a couple more minutes to be able to help.
Oh, yeah. Well, can you just try the link for me, please? Because if it's not working, then I can at least tell Evan that there's not just my issue, that's everyone else's issue as well, because otherwise he will just think I'm totally stupid.
Bridget, hold on 1 second. I just got an alert come up. Let me put you on hold. Hold on. Bridget, are you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Bridget, are you crying?
Yeah, sorry. It's just been a rough week.
Oh, no, I understand. What were we talking about? How can I help you again?
I'm trying to open the portal, but it doesn't work. And can you just please try and open it? Because if you cannot open it either, then Evan won't think I'm a complete fool, because I've been totally out of. He's probably going to fire me if I do one thing wrong.
Get there. What do you need me to open again?
I need you to open the new portal, the SSHF.
Okay, so I'm going to pause there. Right now, this is again a student who's competing against a very professional social engineer, but she built up in the moment that she was put on hold. Right, she used that time to build up a fake cry. For those of you who are wondering, oh my God, did she really break down and start crying? No, she didn't. This was all part of, yeah, exactly, right? And it was all very much planned. And so if you're curious, and you want to, what we also have as an aside, is we have a podcast. Whoops, excuse me. We have a podcast, the Care Pod. And if you're interested in listening to her chat with Rachel, you can hear her thought process as she's going through this. She shares that with the listeners. But we did that last year, and it was so much fun. And so, yeah, she really is. Yep, absolutely, right? It's all about, and that's what I meant. Like, vishing is really, really hard, right? Because you can't see the person. So how do you convince someone? How do you? She could get us that yes, right? But these are the types of things that we want to also expose students to. And so given that we've done, the course projects, and we were able to do this collegiate competition last year, this year, we got a new grant that started this February. It's a 3-year grant. And we're actually working on different parts of this. So the collegiate competition is happening again this year. We actually have 5 returning judges, 3 new ones. We're going to take 8 teams. If you're interested in this, and I can put the links in the chat box later, but we have selected the 8 teams for this year. But if you know of students, and if you know of colleges, community colleges and universities, right, please help us spread the word, because we want to open this up to not just, again, technical students, but all students. So we did that, but one of the questions that we got last year is, why is this only for undergraduate students? And that was a good question. So we had our first social engineering pen test competition this summer, which happened from June 11th to July 30th. And we had 1 high school team, 10 undergraduate teams, and 9 graduate teams. And again, they were from all disciplines. We also had an international team. And the premise here was the Care Lab. As the director of the Care Lab, I hired, would it be Open Cybersecurity? Yes, yep, absolutely. If we can get a team, to me, I'm more concerned about, right? I'm less focused on the protocols and the requirements, and more about just exposing students. So if you think students are going to, we will make it work, right? But the premise here was, as the director of the Care Lab, I hired the student teams who posed as pen testers to do a social engineering pen test on my lab and on its employees, which is basically me, Rachel, and Katora. And they had to do OSINT on us. They had to then phish and vish us. We also challenged them to create their attack playbooks and map it onto the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and then also provide us with recommendations through a formal pen test report. So we're going to be doing this again next year. The really, really cool thing was, yes, this was funded by NSF, but we also got Google to sponsor us, which was a big win for us in the liberal arts. And we also had wonderful cash prizes for the winning teams, right? So I'm going to breeze through this one quickly, but we've essentially mapped our competitions and even the course projects to the NICE framework, knowledge, skills, and abilities frameworks, right? So if you're familiar with that, and if you're thinking, if you're looking for other ways to incorporate this in your classroom or in your work environment, note that we've also provided mapping, right? So we've gone through the ethics, we've gone through the NICE mappings, we've done several iterations of this. The idea is you can take this and hit the ground running. We also have educator workshops. So we actually had our first one on June 7th. We had another one on September 17th. And then we have our next one that's happening on February 26th, 2022. So the application form is actually live right now, and I can also drop the link for that in the chat box later. But I want to, I guess, end with this slide, right? going back to Cyversity's even theme, right? Which Bennett just introduced in his opening slides. We, in addition to sort of those general ideas of DEI, right? And we want to have access, equity, and inclusion, things like that. We're also offering a slightly different take on DEI, which is cybersecurity specific, right? So diversity in the sense that it's a different way of thinking, right? Not just technical, but also the social, the psychological. We want it to be inclusive of all fields. One of the biggest issues that I have is a lot of the technical competitions out there only welcome technical students, and you're training only a certain segment of the population. How can we welcome and value all fields for what they bring to the table? And the last one is equity, right? Skills equity. You don't need to be technical to participate in this. This is relatable to everyday lives and experiences. Do you use Google? Guess what? You're doing OSINT. Do you know how to write an email? Have you received a phish email? Great, so you know what this is about. Have you received those phish calls? Can you pick up the phone and call someone? Then you can try your hand at phishing, right? So we want to take that. I'm not saying that, again, the technical isn't important, but it's only one portion of the solution, right? We're trying to offer yet another component. This is sort of our contribution to this space. So that's everything that I have. And if there's any questions or concerns, you can reach out to me, rege@temple.edu. I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen and see if I can put some of these links for you into the chat box. So if you have any questions, just please go ahead and unmute your mics and we can have a chat, or if you want to unmute yourselves. Yeah, you're welcome. So this is our website here. I'm actually, if I could, I'm probably going to share my screen one more time. Sorry, folks, bear with me. Okay, so hopefully folks can see the lab website. So that's the lab. So if you're interested in our course projects, you can just go to the resources page. And so we have the privacy terms and conditions is the student video that I showed you with the Millie Rock. The shoulder surfing one, for instance, I also showed you, right? And again, we've mapped them onto KSAs. So there's several different types of things here. So those are all available for download. If you're interested in the educator workshop, this is, right, so let me put that in here as well. Thank you for your kind words in the chat box. So if you know of, and oh yes, I should also mention the educator workshop is open not just to college and university educators, but also to middle and high school educators. So if you know of anyone or if you fit that bill, and we have made exceptions. For instance, we had a public librarian once who said, hey, can I come? Because we have a lot of seniors falling for scams and this would really, help me hold an information session. So bottom line again is just sharing these resources, right? So if you know of any educators that can come out, that would be great. Here's our Care Pod, right? So if you're interested in listening to episodes, you can go ahead and check it out there. Mostly it's students interviewing students about, students who competed in the competition. It's either Rachel and Kakora who do that. We also have one of my favorites and one of the most popular resources that we have is Organizations We Love. So I'm going to have to update the ICMCP on here now and put Cybersity. But we've broken them up into different groups, right? So if you're looking for organizations to work with, if you're interested in our collegiate competition, this one is, if you're interested in the collegiate SECTF, if you know of any undergrads at community colleges, universities, I would love to see teams from minority serving institutions at HBCUs. That would be really awesome. So if you know of students like that, if they can form teams and come compete, that would be awesome. And then the last one is, we haven't announced this yet, so you actually get a sneak preview of the announcement that's coming out. But we actually have a cybersecurity public service announcement contest, right? So this is also open to high schools and undergrads and grads. So, you know, we've got some really cool judges on here from, let's see, who do we have? Yeah, so we have some folks from CISA with DHS, EDUCAUSE, NCCOE, NIST, NICE, right, the FTC, NCSA. So lots of really, really cool folks who are excited about this. So again, the students just have to put together a 30-second public service announcement and, you know, enter the contest with that. So we're going to be announcing this on Friday. You actually get first knowledge of this. But again, if you know students who would be interested in this, please help us spread the word. And that is everything that I have.
Well, there you go with that sneak peek.
Is there a link for the organizations you love?
Yes. Okay. And I just realized I didn't share my video this whole time. That was so embarrassing. Okay. My apologies. All right. And that's the owls. We call it the owls because that's also our mascot. So yeah, Ashley?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I've been having Wi-Fi issues all day. Well, nice to meet you and thank you for this chat. I'm currently in a cybersecurity bootcamp, and I actually learned about social engineering via listening to like Darknet Diaries episodes, if you've ever heard of those.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to ask, how can someone pursue social engineering as a career without like being malicious, I guess, and putting other people in danger, like outright?
Yeah, so there's a couple of, and that's a great question. And there's a couple of ways to do this, right? One is you can be part of a pen testing team. So oftentimes the person who's doing the physical pen test, like the social engineering part, will help get the foot in the door for the rest of the team. So you become a part of that unit. And a pen testing team means you have been given permission by the organization within certain parameters to go ahead and test the organization's ability to withstand these types of attacks. So that is a very common, there's always, you know, one or two social engineers that are part of a pen testing team, right? So that's one. Another one, and I was in a workshop actually earlier today where there were folks, they're actually, NICE is trying to think of a new, as I understand it, a new role in their NICE framework, which would be a security awareness role, right? So how do we train others in this space? So it would be, for instance, how do you design these types of programs? How do you implement them? How do you evaluate them? How do you get into issues like what works, what doesn't work? What is the retention rate? All these types of things, right? So how do you, like the area of metrics and measurement, for instance, in understanding user behavior and retention and learning and the effectiveness of learning is literally untouched. So, you know, that's another way that you could see, well, social engineering phishing is very popular, but can you also combine it with some of these other ones, right? So that's another way. So going down the training and awareness route is another one. And the third one is, you know, there are OSINT specialists, right? So you could have, it doesn't matter, you know, there's the Innocent Lives Foundation, for instance, they do OSINT to protect young ones against child predators. There's folks who are looking at terrorism and extremism, and they use OSINT, right? Part of getting into predictive anticipatory analysis, right? Using OSINT for intelligence. So there are many, many different ways that you could go with social engineering. I hope that helps.
It did, thank you. I'll do more research.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out to me.
Okay, I will definitely do that.
Yeah, and also, right, like the Layer 8 conference is a really good one, you know, to go to. They're super, super friendly, super nice there. They're very, very welcoming of students at these types, so I don't know if you said boot camp, right? I'm assuming you're a student. So yeah, right. Go out, if you want to try your hand at this, compete, right? Come compete. So for the summer pen testing competition, what I didn't say is, so because Google sponsored us, Google also went undercover. They sent some of their representatives who posed as Care Lab employees and then engaged with the students during the Vish call. DHS got wind of this, right? So their CISA unit, they sent someone from their CISA unit. So he actually drove down to Philadelphia and spent the day with Rachel, Katora, and me. And he was having a field day, right? Just like responding to the Fish emails that the students send, or, being on the Vish calls with them. So this is the kind of, and the fact that we're getting that support and this realization, right, from NICE or from Google or from CISA, right? It's to me, it's beyond the monetary support. For me, it's more validation that this topic matters, right? That and a lot of students are not, because I want to emphasize this, right? Just because it's social doesn't make it easier. A lot of students don't want to do technical because it doesn't excite them. But this might be that, that other portion of it that speaks to a different crowd, only we're not investing in that space. So Ashley, I would encourage you to try to, join these types of competitions. I don't know where you're located, but you're always welcome to come check us out, right? And attend these types of conferences like AR8, DEF CON, they have the SE Village, any type of place where you can see, these types of competitions or these types of events, that would work.
Thank you so much. I'm studying to be a cybersecurity analyst right now, but
yeah.
I have definitely thought about the pen test route. And the more I listen to how fascinating it is to just get someone to do something you want them to do, I definitely became more interested in that because, like you said, the technical aspect of it, like running scans and stuff, doesn't always interest me, but talking to people does.
Yes, right, absolutely. And that's the thing. We're not focusing on the human operating system, right? The human attack surface. And we're beefing up the technical resources so much so that cybercriminals are, changing their tactics and leveraging the human attack surface. So we need more Ashleys, to be that next gen workforce that secures that. So absolutely pursue it. Hey, Lucy, hope you're well.
And at this point, I don't know if there's any additional questions. We are a little bit over the time, so for those who may need to drop, I understand. If there's any other questions, though, we can always you can always drop it in the chat in case you want to reach out via LinkedIn. If you have us on LinkedIn, we've tagged Anshel a couple times. She has a Twitter. I don't know my Instagram, but I saw the Twitter, so we're good with there and LinkedIn. And my screen's not presented. Give me 1 second.
There, I've also put my email address and Twitter handle in there if anybody needs it.
There you go. All right, and so to quickly wrap up, as like to be most cautious with everyone's time. Oh wait, my video wasn't on. There we go. You almost got me there. Almost the same thing you did. Nonetheless, so this is one of the many benefits that we have at Cyversity. Explore. We have our cyberseek.org, which is basically an assessment. I'm sorry, not the assessment. That's the competency core. We have those for roles and other career trends and jobs simply. However, we also have a competency core, which is something that you can use to assess where you're currently at in the field or just in your knowledge base simply. To access both of these, you will have to go to, well, for Cyberseek, you go to cyberseek.org, but to access competency core, you can find that on our website. However, you will have to be logged in. So if you're not a member, membership is free. Of course, I highly recommend becoming a member so you can not only come to other webinars and meetings such as this one, but you can also, utilize these benefits that you're able to get. Additionally, training, mentoring, scholarships, and then of course, the best part of all is the networking aspect and being able to go to local chapters or chapters in your area. And so to wrap up, I just want to remind everybody what the mission was. And the mission is, Cyversity's mission is to achieve the consistent representation of women and underrepresented minorities in the cybersecurity industry through programs that's designed to foster, recruit, and include and retain everyone. I'll paraphrase. Nonetheless, I would like to once again thank you all for attending. Our next upcoming Cyversity events are October 13th and October 21st. You will be able to stay updated through the LinkedIn channel. And of course, you can always go and be a member and you get those weekly updates where they also send reminders and more information about upcoming webinars. And that is all that I have at the moment. That's all I have for a moment. So once again, thank you everyone for attending, and we can, close the meeting, close the recording, and just go from there. Let me stop sharing my screen.
Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.